But if somebody's out there, for example, they're running a business and let's say they're turning over £150,000 and they've got 1 or 2 employees and they're not able to spend that much time on marketing, I would say to start off with, spend at least half a day a week consistently on marketing. Unfortunately, what I find, Scott, is people might spend half a day for a month and then they start expecting results. It doesn't work like that.
This is not a podcast to just get you motivated and inspired. This podcast comes with the sole purpose to discuss strategies that we can all implement into our business right now that can increase how much money we earn. We will hear from successful business people about marketing, sales, recruitment, training and mindset, the key principles to grow a business, make it recession proof and thrive in today's business world. All right, Shaz, so thank you so much for joining us on Weekly Business Talk. I briefly mentioned to you, we have a whole load of listeners, thousands of them, that they're small and medium-sized business owners. They're in web design, they're in sales industry, marketing industry, property. We've got a really diverse listener base. But ultimately, what we all have in common is we're running small and medium-sized businesses where, well, in times like this, where almost some of the listeners will be just looking to survive, to get throughout this difficult time. Obviously, and we're in the midst of this pandemic and lockdown. But of course, we want to grow successful businesses. We want to increase our knowledge within business, and so we speak to people like yourself, Shaz, who have been in business a long time. You, of course, started. I'll let you explain a bit about your story. But what interested me was someone who is in. Whose main expertise is in the accountancy space right now. I mean, everybody's got a whole load of questions when it comes to asking our accountants about self-employment benefits and furlough schemes and grants and loans that are available to us. But I thought that would be someone who can share some valuable insights right now to our audience, so that, as I say, we can learn to navigate ourselves through this difficult time, but then hopefully off the back of it can come out and grow our business thereafter. But of course, I know you've now got, well, you're certainly a bit of an entrepreneur. You've got some other business interests that range into property and day nurseries and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to really picking your brains, getting some of your wisdom and sharing it with our audience. But that is who Weekly Business Talk listener base is. But enough of me telling you about our listeners and about the podcast. Shaz, introduce yourself. What is it you do? And tell me what is your day-to-day sort of operations and week-to-week operations all about?
First of all, thank you very much, Scott, for having me on your show. I know we've been trying to get this sorted for a couple of months now, in fact. I think.
It's been a while. It has been a while. So I'm glad to have nailed you down and we've got our times right. So thank you so much for that.
It's finally happened. Where there's a will, there's a way. In fact, that's the first business lesson.
That's very true. It's actually very fitting right now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So by profession, I'm an accountant. I have my own accountancy practice, which I've been running for the last 18 years now. And that's when I really started my business journey. And as I've progressed on that journey, I've then started a few different businesses, because very quickly I came to the realization, Scott, that if you're in professional services, running a small business, be it an accountant, a lawyer, an IFA, for example, you'll earn reasonably decent money running a business, but you're never going to kind of really become financially independent unless you have a very strong base and a very strong business. And I can especially talk about the world of accountancy. Most small accountancy practice owners tend to earn a good salary. They don't make significant profits, and that's when it dawned upon me that really what I should be doing is creating multiple streams of income. And that's when I started, and of course not only that, but also diversifying so that I don't rely on one source of income, one type of income. So I then started a few different businesses, ranging from, as you've already said, a children's day nursery business, a credit hire business, a speaking, coaching and consulting business, which has worked incredibly well, and a property business. So those are my 5 different streams of income.
And are you, I mean, do some weeks, are you on, you know, for example, I dare say that certain times of the year you're all hands on deck when it comes to your accountancy business, and then other days, I mean, does it completely vary, or do you have it split up that you're really only working on certain businesses now, or is it certain days, or just at certain times of the year? How do you split your time up now between them, or is it a bit of an ad hoc, it just you deal with business as and when it comes?
It's a bit of both. I soon realized that there were lots of accountants who are much better than I am at producing accounts and doing tax work and compliance work. So I went on this journey to try and employ as many of those as I could, obviously depending on the capacity in my business. So I've got a fantastic team of accountants and tax advisors who work for me, who pretty much run that business for me, truth be told. And I can say hand on heart, they're all better than I am as an accountant or a tax advisor. However, I am in the same office, sat in the same room, although obviously it's a big room and it's divided up. So if anybody ever needs me, I'm there, pretty much an open door policy. So most of my time is taken up either looking at finding solutions for clients in terms of tax solutions or property solutions, and the other and the rest of the time I spend either on marketing my business, so doing what you're doing, recording podcasts or recording videos, training sessions, doing interviews, writing blogs, that type of stuff. Yeah, but also then looking at property deals, because what I found out very quickly was property. So my accountancy practice, we specialize in working with property investors, and one of the key reasons why property investors wanted to work with me and my team was that because they saw that we were also property investors. So not only were we good at advising them about accounts, VAT or tax and all that type of stuff, but we were actually running a similar business to them. So we understood their challenges, their struggles, their hopes, their aspirations, their dreams, all of that stuff, so we can share the journey with them, and we kind of got what they were all about. And so I spent some of my time doing that too.
I can really relate to that actually, Shaz, because coming from more of a legal sector from myself, again actively involved in the property space, that again is how we get a lot of business in the property space or from investors and developers, is because we have a good knowledge of the property space. So it's always great when you're dealing with an expert that has not just knowledge about, you know, VAT, tax or the legalities surrounding, say, property, but that actually knows the, you know, the real details of the business, because they actively have interest within that business or that sector or field as well. So no doubt that's a great selling sort of it's a great pull for clients to get them in. So I can relate to that. But something interesting you just said there, you mentioned there that you spend most of your time now on marketing these businesses by doing podcasts, writing articles. You've got books, of course, which we'll come to no doubt at some point in time. Was that something, because we find that something I always talk about was so many great business, they're great at their individual craft, they're great accountant, they're a great solicitor, but unfortunately running their business is a whole separate skill, and sometimes they lack in that area, which we try and educate these sort of experts on. Was that something that you found out early on in your career, that you need to be a marketer first, or you need to spend more time doing that? Did it happen naturally? Was there something that made you go, right, I will build these businesses, employ people, and I will market them and be the face of these businesses. I will develop the business. How did that come about? What brought you to that?
I wish I had a mentor like you, Scott. When I started my business back in 2003, it took me the best part of 8 years to do the hard graft, to make numerous mistakes. And I sometimes joke that I've pretty much made most of the mistakes a business owner could make. That's how naive and wet behind the ears I was when I started. So after about 8 years of being in business, it then dawned upon me that what people are generally speaking doing, of course, you need to do CPD, continuing professional development, to learn your art, to learn obviously the regular updates in your industry. That's fair enough. But generally speaking, professionals of all sorts and types are sometimes fixated or programmed to become a better accountant, to become a better solicitor, to become a better IFA, or whatever their profession may be. And what I realized, Scott, was once you're good, and you're pretty good, and you know your business and you know your stuff, if you then spend another 25% time becoming even better, your income is not going to increase or improve with the same or in the same proportion. So just because you're 25% better now, you're not going to earn 25% more. However, if I spend that time improving my business by 25% more, it's likely I'll increase the amount of revenue I generate for my business. Again, it might not be 25%, by the way, but it could be 20%. And that's when I started changing my focus, saying I need to do my continuing professional development. I need to keep up to date with tax and accountancy rules and changes. Of course I do. But the rest of the time, rather than trying to become a better accountant, let's now become better at marketing the services that I'm selling.
And how do you have a time frame where or a sort of strategy where you say, this is how much time I focus on operations and this is how much time I focus on marketing? Do you have a hard and fast rule for that? I mean, if there's people, for anybody listening out there and people wondering, how, okay, but do I spend a day a week, a couple of days a week in so many hours? How do you try and do it?
Yep. So, and I mean, it's kind of changed over the years. So, if I had a choice, and I mean, I do have a choice, but if I wanted to, I could spend 5 days a week marketing. Now,
yes,
as business owners, we really work 7 days a week. We don't work 5 days a week. But I could spend every single day marketing. However, what I've done is I've got 3 of the people who work for me, who are assisting and supporting me with the marketing services. So I don't have to spend 5 days. I can now spend a day and a half doing marketing. The rest of the time, obviously, all of my team members who are in the marketing department are helping me with that. But if somebody's out there, for example, they're running a business, and let's say they're turning over £150,000 and they've got 1 or 2 employees and they're not able to spend that much time on marketing, I would say to start off with, spend at least half a day a week consistently on marketing. Unfortunately, what I find, Scott, is people might spend half a day for a month and then they start expecting results. It doesn't work like that. You've got to spend half a day a week for a whole year and have a strategy to then start seeing results. Just because you've posted on Facebook 5 times a day for a whole month, it doesn't mean people are going to start ringing you up now and saying, can you become my accountant or can you become my solicitor? It takes a lot longer than that. You have to earn the right to get their attention, and then you have to earn the right to become their advisor, and that takes a lot of hard time and graft. So I'd say spend half a day a week consistently for a whole year, and people will start seeing a change in terms of how many leads and how many clients they are generating. I hope that kind of answers your question.
It absolutely does, because I do find often these things, and I do like to try and take any of the, certainly from myself in running a business, I try and take out all of the complicated matters and break it down to the real simple stuff, and really it is as simple as that. It's simple formulas put in place, but more importantly, just because it's simple doesn't mean that they're easy. But the important part being is that you're consistently doing these simple things, and that's where the hard part comes in, because it's easy to go on and this week put some posts on LinkedIn, Facebook, or whatever it may be, but to do that week in, week out with and make them good posts and good adverts, that is the hard part. And a lot of people, unfortunately, either don't see the value in it or can't keep up with it. So I'm glad you touched on that there. But yeah, consistently. So you would rather apply a smaller amount of time but do it week in, week out for a prolonged period of time? I would 100% agree with that. That is actively something that we promote as well, is that consistent action, even if it's in a smaller sort of a smaller amount of it, but keep doing it day in, day out, or week in, week out, depending on what it is. So obviously you're in the accounting space. You must speak to a whole host of businesses, very successful businesses, and unfortunately some that really struggle. Whilst we're talking about marketing, what is it? What are the common things that you see businesses doing wrong, and what are the common things that you see successful businesses doing that make them successful? And I'm asking specifically from your consultancy side and your accountancy side. Is there any trends that you see that, you know, somebody listening can go, I do that and that's a mistake, or I need to do more of it? Well, business growth, and, you know, if they're wanting to improve their business, not necessarily just increase the revenue, but if they want to improve their business, maybe it might be as simple as going from a well-paid job, because it's just them as a self-employed person, to maybe having a couple of staff. But is there any trends that you see, if people can implement, that they will see a positive effect, or if there's something that you see all the time that people are doing wrong, and no doubt there is many of them, but something that you see that just time and time again people are doing, and it's really killing any sort of aspirations of growing their business or making money, or you know, whatever it may be, but from a success point, it's really hindering them.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole 3-day seminar, by the way, Scott. But what I'll try and do is I'll try and cover a few which I hope your listeners and viewers will find useful. So the single biggest problem that people have, in my experience, is they don't focus and pay as much attention to their pricing as they should do. So I'm pleased you asked that question, because back up here I wrote a book, okay, especially on pricing, how the authority guide to profitable pricing. A lot of people are either working on low margins or no margins, and they are underpricing because they have not really gone through a proper process of establishing what the true value of their product or service is. So I won't spend too much time on it, but what they'll generally do is, if they've stopped working for an employer, they'll either charge the same as that employer, or they'll charge a bit less to be competitive, or they'll look in the marketplace and think, what are other people charging, so I'll charge a bit less than them because I'm a newcomer.
Yeah.
They don't think about what additional value am I adding, how am I different, what's my USP, and therefore what can I charge for that, because I'm offering something nobody else is. So pricing is the first problem or issue or challenge people should address. The second one is the getting of a customer, Scott, is one of the most expensive things one can do. So spending time on marketing, spending time on sales, then obviously acquiring a customer where they get to know, like and trust you, and then buy it from you, okay, takes up a lot of time, effort and energy. Once you've got that customer, you then want to be thinking, what else can we cross-sell or upsell to them, okay, that we're good at, which the customer or client needs. Most people aren't able to do that. So to give you an example of my own business, for example, somebody may come to us and say, can you do my accounts, and I'll do my own tax return. But then they might need payroll, they might need VAT returns, they might need CIS returns, they might need management accounts and all the other services that we offer. But until we educate them and tell them what we can and what we can't do, that customer or client won't always know what we could do for them, including obviously making a business plan and then supporting them with the business plan. So people acquire a customer and only sell to them what they initially agreed to sell to them, and they don't kind of take them upstream and think, what other services or products can we offer them. That's where people fall short a lot. The third one we've already covered is they don't spend enough time on marketing their services, because I've always said, or I say always, since I got to understand marketing better, I've said, when you're running a small business, you're not in the business of supplying those products or services. So I'm an accountant, I'm not in the business of selling accountancy or selling accountancy services. I, as a business owner, am in the business of marketing accountancy services. So I think people need to pay more attention to marketing. And just to kind of pick up on the earlier point that you and I were talking about, once people spend half a day consistently, Scott, and they start seeing the results, what you'll find is they'll then say, what's going to happen if I now dedicate a whole day to marketing? So soon that half a day will become a day, will become a day and a half, and then they obviously start employing other team members who can help them with the marketing. So pricing is important, cross-selling is important. Another big trap people fall into is the enthusiasm they come into business with kind of dies down after a few years. So people stop and fail to reinvent their business. Reinvention is very, very important. Thinking of how can we, as you said, take advantage of current trends. How can we do things differently? How can we acquire different types of clients or customers? So people fail to reinvent their business to continuously improve. So if you think about Blockbuster, if you think about Kodak, if you think about Toys R Us, those types of businesses, they fail to reinvent and change and adapt with time, and therefore now, unfortunately, most of them are history. So reinvention is exactly.
But that's an interesting point, the reinvent, and it's actually a subject that we are. There's some parallels to this. We're in the process of recording a video right now, Shaz, about the analysing your business during these sort of difficult times. Take the time, this upsetting marketplace to really analyse your business, and that covers a whole host of things, but very similar in a lot of ways to reinvent your business, sitting down, reviewing what's working, what's not, and how you can improve. So there's a lot of, like I say, similarity there, but what would you say if someone has to sit down and maybe look at, maybe their business is getting a bit stale and they were going to reinvent, what would be the first typical process that you would encourage people to do? Like, what are the actual physical actions that they can take in order to reinvent themselves?
So the first question I ask them is to think about, are they in the right business? Just because you started off as an accountant, you've been an accountant for the last 5 years, it doesn't mean I now have to carry on being an accountant until the day I decide to retire. The second thing I tell them to think about is, if knowing everything you know, be it being in the business that you're going to remain in, or if you were to start a new business, what would you do? And if the answer is I'd still carry on, in my obviously example, I'd carry on being an accountant, then we'd say, okay, now what can you do differently, because you're starting from scratch again, okay, that you didn't do previously, that would give you a competitive advantage. And that's when people then obviously start thinking about all the different possibilities, avenues that are available to them. I'm sure you've heard of things like doing a SWOT analysis, or strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, that kind of stuff, a pestle analysis, looking at all the different opportunities, which all of those things are great, by the way, but I find most of the answers are known to the business owner anyway, because they know what the problems are, they know what the blockages are, they know what the hurdles are, but they are trying to solve the problem at the same level as where they've created it. And as you know, Scott, you need to see things from a different perspective in order to solve a problem which you've already created. Now, whether that, and again, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, I'll try and come back, whether that means working with a mentor or a coach or...
Yeah, I was going to say that, yes. Would you encourage that for somebody?
The two of the most important things, or the best things I ever did, Scott, and good people like yourself were able to advise me at the time. One, they said to me, get a coach or a mentor. And the second thing they said was, become part of a mastermind group. So pretty much every year for the last 10 years, I've had a coach or a mentor, and I've been part of a mastermind group. And those two things have made a significant difference to my business.
Well, I mean, do you mean significant as in like a obvious and in significant change in the revenue that you're generating and the money that is it that clear and obvious that because you've implemented this coach, mentor, or mastermind, that it's had a clear effect financially for you?
So there's two huge benefits, and obviously I talked about pricing and upselling and reinvention. There was a fourth thing linked with that, which fits in very well here, which is mindset. Most people struggle because of mindset, because obviously of things in the past, their upbringing and experiences that they've had which hold them back. So what mastermind groups to help you do, and coaching and mentoring, is to kind of clear up, clean up, tidy up and improve your mindset. So that's extremely important. Then the second thing what mastermind groups help you do is, when you're around a group of people, let's say there's 10 people in your mastermind group, and it could be the same business, by the way, it could be a different business. When you see somebody else increase their prices, for example, upsell or do something else that you maybe can't do, and you see them do it and they explain to you how they've done it, you're then more likely to believe you can do it too, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. I would agree with that there. No, I mean, I do believe I have seen significant uptake in not even just revenue, which is obviously a very important indicator of how well you're doing, but also just in how I operate my business and how I relate to customers and employees and how I engage with people, how I carry myself, and sort of the problems that once, bothered me or challenged me, now all of a sudden become much easier. So I totally agree, getting in a mastermind group or some sort of group where there's people that are hungry for more, I would agree with you. Huge part of any success that I've had as well. But here's a big one for you. It'll be interesting to get your point on this. I have informed people, I've told people about that before, and I've actually had people turn their nose up at paying money to join mastermind groups or to get a coach or mentor. Do you pay, good money for these people and this access? Do you believe in that? And if you do, what do you say to those folk that maybe go, I ain't paying, I'm not going to pay money to have someone tell me, or to be part of that group? But what's your thoughts on paying for access, essentially?
So I tell people that as an accountant, paying for anything causes accountants huge pain. We like to charge people money, we don't like spending money. The question, or the answer to your question is, it's not can someone afford to, it's can you afford not to.
Yes.
And I can see the barrier, because cards on the table, Scott, initially I struggled with it too. Somebody wants to charge me, let's say for example, £500 to spend 2 hours with me. That's £250 an hour. I don't earn that in a whole day. I'm not going to pay somebody that much in 2 hours. Okay, but I can assure all of your listeners, viewers, followers, it's money extremely well spent. And had I have known, like I said, that these types of people exist, the first thing I would have done is, when I started my business, is maybe taken a bank loan for £10,000 and given it to a mentor or a coach and said, here you go, can we start working together? Because all those hundreds of mistakes that I've made, Scott, I would have avoided most of them. But what's really important is, it's not about saying, let's find somebody who I can pay £500 to. First of all, identify your problems, look around, and then find a coach or a mentor who shares the same values as you, has possibly shared the same journey as you, has possibly helped other people who are going through what you're going through. So make sure that they're the right fit, you're comfortable with them. And if they are the right fit and you're comfortable with them, money is secondary, because I can pretty much vouch, based on my own experience, by the way, and so I know there are bad coaches out there, I know there are bad mentors out there, but based on my own experience, every single penny that I've spent on coaching, mentoring, mastermind groups, self-development and improvement, Scott, has paid a much higher dividend and return than I could ever imagine.
No, I think that I was going to bring that up there actually, Shaz, and that's really, really key to what you said there. Doing your due diligence. It's all very well and good going and finding a mentor. There's a lot of people that are wanting to do better, that are hungry, can be, although we all think of ourselves as very sharp and intelligent business people, we can be easily very impressionable that way. We can be sold the rags to riches story, the quick fix, and all of a sudden agree to something and not really get it. One, we don't get enough from it, might be our own fault, or two, the mentor, the coach, the company don't really deliver on it. And so but it's a great selling that information is becoming big business now. So you have to really do your due diligence, don't you? And again, I would just like to echo, I too have spent some top dollar on my education, on my learning and getting better, and various different, not just specific to my main industry, but in other things as well, particularly sales and marketing. And it's also paid off. It's just something you touched on there. It's, but obviously it's an important part to your success and to where you are now. And yet I see so many people devalue it or think that it's just something you have to do from time to time. But, it's a little bit like training. I'm a big advocate in regular training within a business, training your staff, training the people around about you on various things. And a lot of people see it as something that you do every so often, whereas or something you did, when was the last time you trained? Or we trained last week, instead of something you do every single week consistently, week in, week out. I see it very similar that way. People see getting a coach, mentor, mastermind like that training, it's almost a bit of a drag for them. It's a bit of a chore, whereas they should be seeing it in a different way. Maybe it's just because they've never seen the results from it yet, and it maybe takes something before they actually do that. But yeah, business owners should, much quicker than they do often, seek out some sort of guidance, coaching, mentorship, masterminds, and pay, but after doing your due diligence to make sure it's aligned with your values, like you say. Well, I'm conscious. I don't want to miss the elephant in the room, but obviously right now we're in a very challenging time, and I think actually something you said, all these mistakes that you made, that must be a common theme, because every business owner I speak to has made a ton of mistakes and you learn from them, which is great. But none of us have probably experienced what's going on right now. Very few people have experienced anything of this nature. Even sort of Great Depressions and recessions don't really compare to what we're going on right now. But the coronavirus and COVID-19 is hugely affecting the economy, and affecting business operations in various ways. Some people are doing much better, most people are not. Again, from a business person but an accountancy perspective, there's a whole load of government initiatives. But first and foremost, what is your thoughts on the economy, the business? How is it for you? Just, what is your general thoughts on the coronavirus and how it's affecting things? What are you getting from your clients and sort of other business interests and associates just now?
When it's kind of started, let's say 5 or 6 or 7 weeks ago, people were panicking. There are still some who are panicking now, but generally speaking, as you know, business owners most business owners in fact, are very quick to adapt. And that's why obviously they remain in business for so long, because they have that ability. So now they're adapting and thinking, what can I now do to see myself through this particular challenge? And when we come out of it, whenever we come out of it, what am I going to be able to do to then make the most of the opportunities that are going to be there? Because make no mistake, Scott, a lot of businesses are going to fall by the wayside.
They are. There is winners, there will be winners, but there will be losers.
Are they the ones who were the really poor, bad businesses anyway? Or are they the ones who were in certain sectors who've been hit the worst? A bit of both, I would say. Are we going to go into recession? No doubt. Look, highly likely. I think yesterday I was reading we've lost 2% of our GDP already. Some are saying it's going to be 10%, some are saying it's 12%. I don't really concern myself with what the exact percentage is going to be. What I do think is, okay, if that were to happen, what are we going to do differently? So we're in a place to make sure not only can we survive, but we can then take advantage of the situation, in a nice way, by the way, situation, so we can safeguard our business, our customers, clients, our people, and our team members, so that we can grow because we made the right decisions at the right time. So the economy is going to suffer. How long is it going to suffer for? No one knows, but my own personal prediction is I think we're going to bounce back quicker than people think. So it could be 12 months, could be 18 months, but it's not going to be a long 5-year hole as some people predict. So people need to get ready right now to make sure they're thinking of those ideas of how they can reinvent their business, do things differently, and capitalize on the opportunities, because so many new businesses are going to start now who are then going to grow pretty quickly. It would be a shame for the existing businesses who are able to adapt and survive, for them not to be able to thrive in the future.
Yeah, there is no doubt that off the back of these crisis times, crisis moments in history, there is incredible successes, there's opportunities out there right now. And it might be, sadly, because a business has failed and suffered for various reasons. It might have been a bad business, it might have been bad leadership, it might have just been unfortunate, industry circumstances, who knows, lack of support possibly from government. But you tend to find that, that entrepreneur who was laid off because of this has got nothing to lose, goes into business, creates a huge success off the back of this. So there's no doubt, I firmly believe, and entrepreneurs and business people tend to be, 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, whatever it is, whatever the stats are, they tend to be of a particular breed. That you tend to be able to, like you say, adapt, and sometimes there's no rhyme or reason, but you just seem to have this attitude where you just go through anything and everything, which is why you're in business in the first place, because it's not for the light-hearted. But I agree with you, there will be a bit of a kicking that comes from this for some. There will be losers, but there will be incredible wins. Obviously, would it be controversial for me to ask what your thoughts are on I've had a lot of people, even just on LinkedIn, and it maybe depends what angle you come to. Obviously, there's a whole... I see I'm in my office right now. I could argue maybe be classed as key working right now in terms of our industries. But you're England. You're allowed back in your office now. Of course, yous have been allowed to go up. In Scotland, we're still kind of locked down unless you're key industry. But the actual hysteria, the kind of media attention is actually more damaging to businesses and the economy than the actual virus itself. It's easier to sell a doom and gloom bad story than it is a success story. So, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, the media have one role and one role only, which is either to sell newspapers or sell airtime or sell whatever they're selling to keep them going. And they've realized this many years ago, by the way, decades ago, if not hundreds of years ago, as in bad news sells much better than good news.
Yes.
And I think generally they might have persuaded or influenced the country about doom and gloom, but I think they haven't really come across entrepreneurs and business owners and our hard grit, our stubbornness, as in we never give up and we keep fighting even in times of adversity. So no matter how much the media tells us about doom and gloom and we're going to have a recession and a depression and GDP is going to fall by 10, 12, 15%, whatever the number is, I think as you and I, alongside all the other business owners, or most of the business owners, we're going to come out fighting, my friend, and we're going to get into business, invite hopefully all of our staff members back into the office and say, let's sit down now, and what are we going to do now to support our products, our services, our customers, our clients, our tenants, our patients? What are we going to do to be even better than we were before the virus started? And that is what really makes a business owner. And that's why you and I really get up. Now, making money, of course, people like that. But, and I know you talked about it earlier, but that's just a consequence of doing the right thing at the right time in the right way. But what we get up for every morning is we think, how are we not today going to try and change the world in our own way how are we going to improve things for our team members, for our community, for our customers, for our clients, and how are we going to be better today than we were yesterday. That's what really gives entrepreneurs and business owners a kick and a thrill. And I think because we love that so much, we're going to carry on looking for that even more. And right now, with what we're going through, that's going to give us an even bigger thrill, because against the odds, we're being told things are going to be very tough, very bad, it's going to be hard, money is going to be hard to get hold of, people aren't going to come out, they're not going to spend money. So we're going to come out, Scott, and we're going to prove all of those people wrong, and we're going to do that a lot quicker than the media is telling people.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself, Shaz. I almost like sometimes that doom and gloom, it's almost like right now business owners are the underdogs. It makes you fight a bit harder, it makes you go a bit longer and stay a bit later, doesn't it? And I'm glad you share that thought as well, and I'm sure there's a lot of business owners that will take a lot of comfort in that. It'll hopefully fire up, get them fired up a bit more than they already are. But of course the government, and something that we spoke about prior to this call, was that the government are giving us a lot of support. So, I mean, and I think most business owners by now will know what they are allowed to. What was it, the coronavirus, so if there was a coronavirus loan scheme in place for larger size business. Now they've brought in the bounce back loan. I have heard that there has been great difficulty for certain bounce back loan seems to be quite easy to get. We as a business took advantage of that, seemed fairly straightforward, but for different businesses where they don't qualify for that, there is obviously a different scheme available. There's furloughing, the self-employment thing. What initiatives, what are the main initiatives out there, and are they working? How do people go about looking for them? What's your take on it?
So I was about to say the main one. It's not the main one, but a really easy one is, if you have a business and you're paying business rates and you qualify for small business rates relief or rural rates relief, and your rateable value is obviously less than £15,000, you get £10,000 through your local authority or your council. A lot of businesses have had that, some haven't. So those who are listening who haven't had that but do qualify for small business rates relief or rural rates relief should contact their local council, and all you have to do is email them and send them your account number and a copy of your bank statement showing your bank account number and your sort code, and they'll transfer the £10,000 to you.
£10,000, which I mean, certainly for people, I mean, that'll probably pay most people's rent in their premises for quite some time, I would imagine, depending on how big your office is, obviously. But if you qualify for small business rates, it's going to cover certainly a right good proportion of it, isn't it, if you qualify? So the grant's a great thing there. What about furlough? Obviously, just what was it, yesterday, maybe the day before? It's been extended now. Is that right?
That's right. So I'll come on to furlough in a second. For those businesses who are in retail, hospitality, or leisure, and their rateable value is more than £15,000 but less than £50,001, they get £25,000. So
yes.
So they need to be aware of that.
But that's something for the tell me that, what sector is that? That's hospitality.
Retail, hospitality, and leisure.
Right. Okay. They get a bit more of it because they're going to be significantly hit, of course, with this year. So they're getting a bit more money there.
Absolutely. Then the Chancellor introduced the furlough scheme, which is the job retention scheme, and the government will pay up to 80%, capped at £2,500, so 80% of £2,500 per month for employees who you cannot afford to keep on the books. So you furlough them and they basically sit at home, or they can get another job if they want to, by the way, and that they get paid. And on Tuesday, so a couple of days ago, the Chancellor extended that up until the end of October, and the government will continue paying the 80% up until the end of July, and then they're going to expect employers to pay something. So it's probably going to be 20% paid by the employer, 60% paid by the government, which I think a lot of people have seen this negatively. In fact, Scott, saying, "Oh, well, this isn't good, and employees are going to get used to getting free money." I don't think that's the purpose here. The purpose is to give people like you and me confidence to say the government's with you, the government's backing you. If you are not able to get every single employee to come back to work, rest assured we're here, we're going to support you throughout this period. Because let's just say everything goes okay and the 1st of July we're allowed to go back into our offices and most people are allowed to go back to work. You and I aren't going to say to half our staff members, oh, you stay at home and you just get the 80%. We're going to say, come back into work, let's now start hitting the road to make sure we take advantage of all the opportunities available to us.
Yeah. See, just while we're on the furlough scheme, I actually found somebody we had on the podcast, successful businessman down in Essex, CEO of the Partyman Group, James Sinclair. Do you know James? Yeah, putting a lot of content out, and I don't know if it was his original suggestion, but that's where I heard it from, just to give him credit if it was him that brought it up. But something he said that would be very interesting is now the government have committed the money to doing this, the billions of pounds that it's going to cost. He said, I would suggest instead of saying, staff sit at home. Obviously, there's an element of sitting at home right now for safety reasons and for the coronavirus and all the rest of it. But even he was basically saying, let them work and still get the money. And what that's going to do, instead of like just standing stationary and getting support to survive, which is great, why not actually use it to give a bit of a boost to, say, right, continue to work. There is some support on a weekly, monthly basis towards your costs, and actually try and trade out of this. So the money's been committed anyway. So why not try and use it to fuel businesses to actually make profit again quicker, instead of just saying, right, effectively sit at home staff member?
He has a point, but part of, in my introductions, Scott, the bit I didn't share with you, not for any particular reason, was I'm also a city councillor. So I'm involved in local politics, also very much interested in central politics, and have a keen interest on how Whitehall works, how government works, how they legislate. The whole point of the furlough scheme is that if you cannot afford to keep an employee on your books, then you furlough them. Furlough them just because you don't want to pay their salary. Now, a lot of business owners have thought, well, business is going to be tight, for example, everything's shut, so we'll furlough you anyway. But that's not why the scheme was introduced. The scheme was introducing, if you can't afford to keep people on, we don't want them to become unemployed, okay? So rather than them becoming, let's say, and I use this word softly, but rather than them becoming reliant on the state, or a burden on the state, or use whatever word you like, okay?
Yes.
Okay, and claiming job seekers allowance or some other allowances or benefits, universal credit or something else, will pay their salary, or 80% of their salary, capped at £2,500. That's what the scheme was introduced for. So what James is saying would change the way that the scheme is presented, and I think it would be very hard for the government to put that through, because it would give off the wrong signals. I see where he's coming from. He has a point, and as an entrepreneur, I know exactly what he's saying, as in people are sat at home anyway, they've got 37.5 hours doing nothing. If they carried on working, they could support the existing business, but that's not what the scheme is there for. The scheme is there for to say, if you can't afford to keep somebody on and you're about to make them redundant, don't do that, keep them on and we'll pay them.
Yeah, and I suppose these that when it's almost, I would imagine, and certainly coming from your political background, I would imagine when these type of schemes are put in place, it's not something we'd have talked about for half an hour and then put it in place. These things take a lot of legislation, a lot of legals go through. There's a lot of consultation done in a very quick time frame, no doubt. And when you put it in place, it's very difficult to then go back and change it in any huge way. But I found it interesting. I'm not going to lie. I found it interesting. It's great, the support. The last thing any business owner wants to do right now is make somebody redundant, especially right now, because the support, let's be frank, rightly or wrongly, I don't want to get into the politics of that, with the support that you get when you're not working, isn't a lot of money. And for somebody to go from a proper salary to, you know, £50-60 a week or whatever is very damaging for them. But it's interesting thought that if you could use this committed money to actually try and, I suppose it would be completely open for abuse though, that's the only thing, and how do you police that? That is one of the big things I thought, is that this system is completely for people that want to abuse it and aren't in it for the spirit of what it's all about. It's a dangerous game, but it's an interesting point he raises, like you said, and I do see some sense in it. Use this money that has been committed already to try and fuel businesses to grow and to help us out of this, versus just keep the people safe, which is important, but let's try and use it so that the people can actually work, or try and do something. When we get back to when we're away from lockdown, let's use it to try and fuel business. So, okay, interesting points on that. Now, we never quite spoke about the furlough scheme is one thing, but obviously there's been a huge kick up, and I know a lot of the listeners are self-employed, small business owners, let's call them, self-employed. There's been a whole, objection about you're not allowed to include dividends, and I can see why. But again, for the self-employed people, what the hell do they do?
So those who are self-employed, okay, let's say as a sole trader business, they'll be okay as long as they meet the criteria and their profits are less than £50,000 a year and they file their tax returns. Those who, like me for example, who have a limited company, are a director of a company and an employee, and who see ourselves as self-employed, but in the eyes of the law we're not self-employed, we're directors, therefore we're employees.
Absolutely.
Okay, and generally speaking, the advice they've had from their accountants is to take a salary of, let's say, £700 a month to stay below the tax and NIC threshold. They are going to struggle because the government will only give them 80% of that £700 odd per month. And I see both sides of the argument, because one side I see is in, you've had it good, you've not been paying national insurance, you've been paying less taxes, so for the last X number of years, be it 2 years, 5 years, 10 years or longer, okay, you've had this advantage, so you've not paid as much into the system as the others have, therefore now we're supporting them and not supporting you. So I see that part of the argument.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, I get that. You can't have it both ways, as you say. Yeah, I get that.
I see their argument as well to say, you know what, we're running businesses, we're taking risks, we're employing people, we're generating revenue, we're obviously paying VAT or getting VAT, collecting for HMRC, we pay corporation tax, we're paying some income tax depending on how much money we take out personally, we're paying employers' national insurance contributions, we're paying business rates and all the other taxes. Just because we've not paid a bit of national insurance contributions, the government shouldn't penalise us. And I think they have a very, very strong point. They have a strong argument. And if I were advising the government, I said, okay, don't give them 80% of their dividends, but say, okay, we'll give you something. So, hey, here's an extra, we'll give you 50% of your dividends, for example, capped at £50,000. So you still get less, but you get something because you are contributing to the economy. Because generally speaking, Scott, somebody who's self-employed running a sole trader business, for example, is going to have a small business. I don't know how many of them are making £50,000 profit. Most of them probably making 10, 15, 20,000 pounds profit. Whereas compared to somebody who has a limited company, generally speaking, they tend to have a limited company because they have a slightly bigger business. So therefore, it could be argued and should be argued, they are contributing more into the exchequer, more into the economy. Therefore, they too should be supported. So I think that the government should have thought through that a bit better, and they've kind of penalised directors who own limited companies when really they should have supported them. Because think about it, they've pumped in, some of the figures suggest, best part of £500 billion, okay, by the time this is done. Maybe more, maybe a bit less. So supporting the 1 odd million limited company owners, okay, isn't going to create that much of a bigger hole compared to the 500 billion. Yet, when we get back to normal, corporation tax might go up, for example, income tax might go up, some of the other taxes might go up, national insurance might go up, which the Chancellor has already hinted at by saying he's going to equalise the taxes. So they expect us, and I say us because I'm one of them, they expect us to contribute to everything that the government's handed out, which I don't have a problem with. I'm absolutely happy with that. But they're not going to support these people at the time when they most needed it. It seems unfair.
Yeah, it's as you say there, it's not a straightforward situation, is it? It's do you think that they've maybe put it in place, and as we said earlier on there, it's difficult to go back? They've set their stall out and they need to commit to it, and unfortunately some people are going to be helped better than others, because like you say, it's not ticking every box for every person, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think there's no, and I know that because of obviously my contact, that there has been some pressure applied to the government to say, come on, accommodate people who are taking dividends, but at the moment the government hasn't budged. And I think if the government came out and said, we'll give you something, but we're going to expect you to pay it back over the next 5 years, most people like myself would say, you know what, don't have a problem, because right now we need the cash, you're going to see us through, you're going to assist us in surviving and getting through this particular period. If you do that over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, if I've got to pay a bit extra to pay this back and to support the economy, as business owners, we have no problem with that. Yeah. We're happy to pay our way as long as it's a fair, level playing field.
Yeah, and that's a key thing there. It's a fair. It'll be interesting to see, because there's no doubt that obviously things are going to increase, taxes across various different areas is going to increase, but it'll be interesting to see when and by how much that is. That's going to be a big question, isn't it?
Well, I'm being told that the basic rate of tax, which is at 20%, will be increased to 25% in a forthcoming budget. So that's a pretty significant increase, by the way. Yeah. Well, that'll be interesting. As I say, as time will tell. For those out there still needing more, okay, they're not self-employed / director level, they're on the furlough scheme or not. There's a grant available, obviously, from local authority. We've talked about the bounce back, which seems to be fairly straightforward to apply for. I tell you what, Scott, it's brilliant. Pretty much everybody I've spoken to and everybody I know who's applied, the first 4 or 5 days, I think it was introduced last week, the first 4 or 5 days, most of the banks were taking 48 hours to pass over the funds. Now, from what I'm seeing, within 24 hours, the funds are being passed down into the account. So it's working incredibly well, and I'm really impressed with it. Really impressed.
What, remind me, I forgive me, is it a business interruption loan scheme, the coronavirus business interruption loan scheme? What is the deal with that one? Because I feel it seemed to not work for some reason. Was it just too difficult for, was it because of the credit checks and some businesses didn't meet the criteria? There was problems though.
Let me put it this way, when that was introduced, on the same day I spoke to a very senior bank manager, and my question to him was that basically some businesses out there might think this is money for old rope, so everybody's going to apply for it. And his response, to paraphrase him, was people who had a crap business, who were not credit worthy before this whole thing started, we're not going to be lending a single penny to them. And I think that's the attitude most banks have taken. And because obviously only 80% of the loan is government backed, 20% risk is being taken by the banks. They've still been very cautious in doing all the checks and balances, and it's taken longer to get the money out, hence why obviously the Chancellor introduced the bounce back loan. But with the coronavirus business loan, there's 2 different types of ways that the banks are dealing with it. The first one is, Scott, businesses, depending on their credit worthiness and their reputation and their track record, have like a pre-agreed limit. So if you ask for, let's say you're making £100,000 profit per year, and if your pre-agreed limit is £100,000, if you ask your bank for that, you'll get that through the coronavirus business interruption loan within about 3 to 4 weeks. The interest rate being charged is about 3.2% there or thereabouts, give or take a few small percentage points, but decimal points, sorry. But if you want to go for the fully fledged coronavirus business interruption loan, then it's taking a long time, because then the bank wants possibly a business plan, they want cash flow projections, they want management accounts. And a lot of my clients who applied for that, by the way, who've got really big businesses, I'm talking about millions of pounds of turnover, they're still going through that process. Those are my clients who agreed to go with the pre-agreed limit. Most of them have had their money. So
yeah. And naturally, when you're doing significant turnover, when you're in the millions of pound mark, then of course it is more complicated. There is more factors to take into account, and rightly so, I suppose. It's, you know, banks doing their due diligence and not just loaning money to any business. Certainly not the ones, like you say, that were running poorly anyway, and you're just feeding money to them for no reason. I suppose that's lessons for business owners, because you never know when these type of things are going to come about. But running your business right and proper, doing the things, the basics that you need to do, in times like this, shows that you should always be applying, you know, submitting things when you're supposed to, making sure that you're, you know, checking all the boxes the way that you should do with your accountant. Exactly, and not defaulting, etc. Is important. You know, it's important. You know, some people, you know, business owners, they don't care about these types of things. It's, you know, they're doing it to make quick money, a 2 or 3 year period. They shut up shop, they come back again. That never in the long run ever pays off. And I think now some of those people will be really kicking themselves that they've not just ran a proper and a good quality business. What's your thoughts then in terms of, I know you said that the economy is going to, I mean, we will naturally take a bit of a hit with a recession, but you're hopeful, or you're expecting that it's not going to be as damaging as maybe what some are suggesting?
I don't think it's going to be long term. My own prediction is within 18 months, I think we're going to see a bounce back, and then slowly things are going to start improving. Of course, I mean, you've had the whole country basically shut down in a way, so to restart that, it's going to take a number of months to get people to get back to normal. And then obviously the consumer needs to have confidence. Are people going to go out? Are they going to go shopping? Are they going to go to restaurants? Are they going to go to bars, pubs, clubs and all the other things? Well, a lot of people are going to be cautious. Are they going to go to holiday overseas? Maybe not. So that's why I think it's going to take best part of 18 months for people to kind of gain that confidence, and then say, okay, maybe now it's safe, it's okay, we can do things like we used to do them 18 months ago pre-coronavirus. So I think within 18 months, maximum 2 years, we're then going to start seeing things getting back to normal. This isn't going to be a 5-year thing. I don't think anyway.
No, I agree with you. Actually, in time frames, that's I had originally thought within a couple of years. That's where my own thoughts were. Just because we'd mentioned it before the interview here, the property world, and just to touch on that there, I know you have interest in the property space. Just recently, you've got a large development just been granted planning permission. I don't know if you can discuss that too much, but what's your thoughts for the world of property? I mean, again, you could probably fill another hour on just that alone or longer. But for people that are interested in property and investing in property, do you see opportunity? Is there going to be problems for people that are trying to sell in terms of house prices dropping? And we spoke already, where there is prices going down for one and where there's problems for one person, there's opportunity for another. But again, what's your general thoughts on that? And, you know, if you can talk about your development, what's happening there?
More than happy to. So the agents I've spoken to who are in the know-how and know more about that particular marketplace than I do, because obviously that's their day-to-day business, are kind of telling me that property prices will probably take a 15 to 20% hit in the next year. That's what they're telling me. So
now, do you mean in house prices or in the amount of customers selling?
In terms of house prices. So a house that was worth £200,000 pre-corona is now going to take a 15 to 20% hit, so he's going to lose between 30 to 40,000 pounds.
And that's quite substantial.
It is substantial. If that happens, what that means is, obviously, if and people are selling, then that creates opportunities for the buyer.
Yes.
Are less people going to sell? Of course, less people are going to sell, because nobody wants to take a 15-20% hit. But the market's still going to carry on trading. So there will be people who are selling for different reasons because of their circumstances. So there will be opportunities there for people. What do I think of property, generally speaking? And then I'll answer your question about my own development. I think property is one of the best businesses ever, because property, Scott, is a business you can do on your own, never have to employ anybody, have subcontractors, outsource, offshore, do all that kind of stuff, and yet you at the same time you can have a team of 100 people sat in an office working for you. As an accountant, I can try and do that, but I'm going to struggle. I do need some people in the office. Property, you have that flexibility. You could pretty much just run your business really from a laptop or a smartphone. So and there's so many different variations in terms of commercial, residential. Are you doing HMOs? Are you a letting agent? Are you doing deal sourcing? Are you doing commercial conversion? Are you buying land? Are you flipping? There's so many different variations of property, and of course you can diversify into a few of those. Coming on to my own development, in fact, one last point, anybody who has a business should diversify their income, and I would suggest that they seriously consider and look at property. It's a very good investment. Take a long-term view and make sure whenever you buy property that two things happen. The first one is it's in a good location, so it cash flows. So every month you've got some net profit or net cash coming in. And secondly, obviously over so let's say a 20-year period, the property is going to appreciate in value anyhow. So you've got two benefits there.
Absolutely.
The ones that I see, Scott, who don't like property or enjoy property once they go into it, who are the ones who think about capital appreciation and don't think about cash flow. Cash flow is more important than capital appreciation. Capital appreciation is a Brucey bonus, for want of a better expression.
Dangerous game, isn't it, to play just based on buy now and it'll grow in value and over leverage. It's a very dangerous game to play.
That's not the game that I endorse. I always say cash flow first, capital appreciation later. So my development, we've got outline planning for 40 houses, and we've just now gone in for full planning. So that's hopefully going to go through. And that now.
And is this situation known about house? Is that something you're just going to ride out, and because of the size of the development, that's okay with you, or does that concern you in doing that kind of larger size development?
Well, by the time we get it built out from today, it's going to take, let's say, 2 to 3 years.
Yes.
By that time, from how you and I see the economy recovering, we're going to be back to some form of normal, whatever the normal is, whether it's the old normal or the new normal. So that. But the other opportunity is this, by the way, is there are housing associations who always need houses based on the current deficit. So I've already been approached or are in communication conversation with a housing association who wants to buy the entire development. So now I'm thinking about, okay, do I want the initial markup, which is a pretty healthy markup, by the way, a very healthy markup. Do I want the initial markup and pass the whole thing to a housing development? Do I now want to do some kind of a joint venture with them? Or do I want to build it out myself and obviously in 2 or 3 years reap the reward, or cut the plot up into 2 or 3 and sell maybe 15 to 30 units to small developers and then build out 10 myself. So I've got 4 or 5 options here, which is good, by the way, because you'll know based on your own background, when you have options, that's the best place to be. When you only have one option or no options, that's the worst place to be.
Big problem when you've only got one. What's the old saying is 1 is none and 2 is 1. So no, you're absolutely right. I suppose it's a form of diversifying, isn't it, when you're in the property space, is to have more than one exit strategy just in case. I mean, I've got some friends in the property space right now that have got investors' money that purchased January, February, and we're coming probably about now to the end of a flip, and hoping to sell that right now or next month, whenever up in Scotland we get back, and everything was based on, we'll get this for 100,000, we'll put 10, 15 into it, we'll get 130, 140, there or thereabouts, nice return for everyone involved. And that model is, quite frankly, really majorly in danger of not happening now because of the current climate and because of a bit of uncertainty, because of course they're relying on people selling their own homes to buy this home and so on. So yeah, having one strategy is a dangerous game when it comes to property. The same way if you're a business owner, just having one stream of income in one industry is also a dangerous game. So it's all very much related that way.
But just to finish off, Scott, having one of anything is bad, isn't it? Having one income stream, one supplier, one customer, one really important team member, okay? And one of anything in business is the worst number.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a very, very good way of looking at it. Well, Shaz, thank you so much for sharing a whole load of insights there. It was really interesting speaking to you. If somebody wanted to reach out, I know you've authored various books. If somebody was needing some tax advice or accounts, where is the best place to get a hold of you? How do we see more about Shaz? Where do we contact you?
So a couple of websites. If they're a general business owner, they can go onto my general business accountancy website, which is aaccountants.co.uk, so aa-accountants.co.uk. If they're a property investor, then they can go onto my property investing website, which is entrustpropertytax.co.uk. But to make it really easier for people, you can just email me on shaz@aa-accountants with an s at the end .co.uk.
Perfect. We'll link all of that in there anyway, Shaz. So we'll make sure that people are well aware. Well, thank you, as I say, for sharing those insights. It's been interesting. I'm sure there's been a lot of people getting a lot of interest from it, taking a lot of little, hopefully some tactics and some insights. And here's hoping that we can all collectively get together and sort of get our way out of this problem time in a stronger position. So thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for having me, Scott, and all the best.